And a very good evening or good day, depending on when you're listening. It is right now, Sunday, May the 24th, 2026, 2:24 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And this is episode 5 of a Sky of the Universe podcast. That's right, another episode here of my little podcast that I do on the side here from time to time. And I'll be honest, not getting the views or listens, whatever you want to call it, as much as I'd like to have. But then again, I mean, this is YouTube. It is mainly a video platform for videos. And of course, that is the main part of my channel, which is videos. But I know some of you out there actually listen to this. And I know Skinflick and a couple of others in the transit community and other communities as well have asked me to do another podcast. So here we are. And if you're wondering why I'm doing it at this time, at 2 a.m. in the morning, well, I wasn't able to coordinate my sleep schedule that good this weekend. So I was basically sleeping a lot during the day today, Saturday, yesterday, and now I'm up overnight, Saturday into Sunday. So here we are, Sunday morning, almost 2:30 a.m. But I guess the good thing is, being out at this time of night, sort of quieter, there's more tranquility, and here I am just sitting in a little park getting some fresh air and just sitting here relaxing, doing the podcast. So once again, hopefully you all are doing fine out there. I know it's been a little bit of a chaotic few months since my last podcast, and I'm going to talk about a few things today, and that's the thing about this podcast. It is random. The topics are random. I don't really do the podcast with a clear plan of what to talk about, but there are a couple of things I sort of have an idea to discuss. I'm going to try to make this episode at least 30 minutes long. We'll see if we can get to that point. Also, for me personally, for my phone here, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra that I have, we do have an update that just came. The UI 8.5 update has arrived, and I am on Android 16. So if you're a fellow Android user like me and you just got the update, let me know what you think. So there's a few visual changes to the UI, the user interface, meaning the way it looks on the phone, the actual Android look for the user. For me, I'm the kind of person that doesn't really like change that much. When I get used to something, whether it's software or certain settings or this or that, I sort of like to keep it that way. But I know when it comes to software and technology, there's always changes and updates, and some updates I like, others I just can't stand. There's certain features that come and go. And I know, for example, Google is notorious for this. There's actually a website that lists all the different products and features that Google once had, but they don't have anymore. For example, there was Google Plus, which was sort of like a social networking group. Maybe not social networking, but you could put fan pages and stuff on there, sort of your own little website. There was all kinds of different little things like that Google had. Not familiar on the top of my head with what the website is, but if you Google, no pun intended, search for things that Google has killed or products that Google came out with and got rid of. There's a few out there that were really handy and nice. But anyways, that's technology for you. So yeah, I'm using, like I said, the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra with the newly updated UI 8.5. I'm not an Apple fan. I don't really know much about iPhones or Apple. Last Apple product I ever had was the iPod Touch. It was the one, I think that's the name of it, the iPod Touch. It was basically the shape of a phone. This is going back to 2009, 2010, right before Apple got rid of the iPod completely. That was my last Apple product that I had. And it had its pros and cons, but the big problem I have with Apple, as the wind is picking up here in southwest Montreal, one of the issues I have with Apple is the fact that you are sort of restricted with what you can and can't do. I don't know if it's still the case, but for example, with Apple, I remember if you want to listen to a song, you have to put it specifically through iTunes, I think. I don't know if that still exists. Shows you what I know about Apple. And then you could, play the song through there. You can only download apps specifically from the Apple Store. With Android, you can just simply download a song and put it on your phone, any folder you want, and it'll play it for you. You don't have to go through, like an iTunes type platform. And you can download files pretty much from anywhere, at your own risk. But that's what Android is pretty much famous for, is that it's more of an open system, where Apple is more of a closed system. But I get it, Apple, I guess, are pretty, when it comes to security and whatnot, I think they pretty much have the edge there. In terms of phones, I mean, from what I've heard, the Samsung Galaxy phones are the ones that have the best cameras, and that's, of course, what I go for when I'm shopping for a new phone. I'm always looking for the phone that has the best camera, and from what I've heard over the years, it's the S series, which I have, Samsung Galaxy S series, that has the best camera. So speaking of the Galaxies, I haven't, and I'm not going to get the S26 Ultra because from what I've read, even compared to the S24 Ultra, which I have now, there's really not that much of a change. And certainly not compared to the S25 Ultra. Now, I know, and maybe I know Aladdin out there, a friend of mine, fellow Transit fan in Ontario, he just got the S26 Ultra. And, maybe he can tell me what he thinks of it. Maybe he can give me a little review of that and see how he likes it. But I'm going to hold off because from what I've heard from, sources, meaning, on the internet that have inside information. There's a couple of websites like that. I don't know if it's Mobile Syrup is one of them. But anyway, you can go there and they sometimes have information ahead of time. And from what I've heard, the S27 is going to be the phone that is going to have the big camera upgrade for the S series. So I'm going to be waiting for that. So the good news is, well, I don't have to pay for the S24 Ultra anymore because the 2-year period is over. So my phone bill is cheaper, but what I'm doing is I'm still paying the amount that I used to pay. And by the time I get the S27 Ultra, I'll be able to put some down payment on it, some money ahead of time, and get a lower plan, or whatever you call it, financing plan, monthly payments for the phone, the actual device. So that's a good thing right now. So we'll see. But, a lot can change between now and the time the S27 Ultra is released next year, 2027. So we'll have to see what happens. But, I know there's a big debate out there. Is Apple better? Is Android better? Look, whatever you're happy with, use it. Enjoy it. If it works for you, hey, that's good. That's all that matters, as long as you're happy. Speaking of technology, as we get a little bit of rain starting to fall here, so I'll have to take note of that. Maybe I might have to finish the podcast another day or another morning, but we'll see. But speaking of technology, if you're a Roblox developer, which I'm not, does sort of look interesting to learn though. Be kind of cool to make a game or something. But if you're a Roblox developer, even a Roblox player, there's big changes that have happened on that platform. Of course, from my personal perspective, as a Transit fan, what I love about Roblox is the Montreal Metro games that are out there. So Skinfleck has an amazing one for the Yellow Line. Of course, we have Can that has his TMMP, the Montreal Metro project. We have Nico Blazin has some games out there. My buddy Schmiga, aka Dan, he just turned 11, so happy birthday to him, buddy. He's going to be working on some games. So yeah, for players and developers, they're basically cracking down on age limits and having to prove your age and age verification. And so if you're a developer out there or a player, it's going to be harder to access games because if, I've read the details somewhere, I don't remember them all, but basically if you're a developer like Can or Skinflek or Nico, you have to do a Face ID verification, send an ID in, all this other stuff if you want people 16 and under to be able to play your games. And also, if you're a player, this I think started last year, you had to age verify. So if you're, for example, my age, I'm 39, I can only talk to people that I think are 18 and up. And there's other age groups, I think like 13 to 16 and 9 to 12 or something. I don't know the details. But, this is all because of the government, trying to, I guess, make it more protective for people, players, and that, different ages. But I'm kind of person, I think it's dumb, it is what it is though, right? I mean, I guess from what I've heard, a lot of developers out there are even considering quitting Roblox at this point. So, we'll see what happens. But from what I've understood, there's not really many alternatives out there. But, for me, I'm probably one of the older players, the older spectrum of players on Roblox. But like I said, I like to play some Metro games and that. So it's always cool to see those and the updates they get. So it'll be a little disappointing if they don't update anymore. Like Can said, he's not going to update. Skinflek, maybe. Nico. We'll see what they end up doing. But they might work on other things. Who knows? But we'll see. But speaking of the Metro and trains and all that kind of fun stuff, of course, we just had the new A3 branch, the A3 Onslow Orme branch open here in Montreal, specifically the West Island. We got 4 new stations. We got Des Sources. We got Des Sources, Fairview, Pointe-Claire, and Onslow Orme. And we also, of course, have, oh my goodness, how am I forgetting the fourth one? There's Des Sources, there's Fairview, Pointe-Claire, and so there's Des Sources, Fairview, Pointe-Claire, Kirkland, and Onslow Orme. So those are your 4 new stations, yes. So I was there during the open house weekend, a Sunday. I went on a Sunday. It was a little bit quieter. Believe it or not, I'm not actually a people person. I like to sort of be alone a lot. And that's the thing. I know sometimes people want to do meetups and stuff, and I do it sometimes, but I'm not really a people person. I never really was. But that's just who I am. Of course, on a separate note, I am trying to find a partner, find a girlfriend, which is just a complete frustrating situation right now, just trying to find somebody. It's really been bringing my mood down, to be honest, and I haven't really been motivated. Just not, it's not that I'm not wanting, it's not that I don't want to make videos or anything. It's just the last few months or so, I just haven't really been that motivated to do things that I usually do. And it's just because I want to settle down with somebody and find my partner, my girlfriend, my true love. And despite the fact I'm not a people person, that is something that I want and I need. So hopefully I get lucky soon. But my point being is that, I went there on a Sunday when it was quieter, and I did end up running into a couple of you. I know Dan Schmega was there, European Mapping. Pinhead was there briefly. Who else did we have? We had Vince. I did a couple of videos with Vince, collaborated with him. He had wanted to meet up for a while. A couple of others were there that I didn't see. I know Skinflek was there, a bunch of others. I don't have to go through the whole list, but the point being is that it was a big event in the transit community. And I also went, of course, on the Friday, where I was invited to the YouTuber / media early ride. And I met a new train fan there, Electric Trains. His channel is Electric Trains, I believe. He retired from his regular job, so now he's doing YouTube sort of as a hobby. So that's kind of cool, you know, so good for him. So I met him. Who else was there? There was Mark, aka Marky Moo. I think there was another YouTuber called The Urbanity. There was another guy from Instagram there. There was, a couple of folks that were there on the Friday. It was a lot of fun. Did the train ride from the source to Ons-la-Orme, and then back again, toured a couple of stations. Then on the Sunday, I did some more exploring. Checked out the Fairview Point Claire terminus, which is attached to the new Fairview station. Of course, the old Fairview terminus has a lot of history. That's going to be demolished, and go figure, going to be turned into a parking lot extension of the Fairview Shopping Center. Surprise, surprise. No, instead of building a green space or, a little park, nope, let's turn it into a parking lot. That's car-centric society for you, right? And hopefully something the REM will help with is weaning people off of their vehicles and turning them to public transit users like myself. Of course, it's no secret, I am anti-car. I am very pro-public transit, very pro-environment, very passionate environmentalist, and a very strong transit advocate. And with that being said, I understand that it's frustrating for transit users who don't have access to good quality transit, and that's why I am a transit activist, transit advocate, whatever you want to call it, is to sort of get the government to increase spending more on transit. And it's something that's very important. It's something that a lot of people depend on. There's so many workers and whatnot that use transit to get around, and if we want people to enjoy transit and use transit, it has to be properly funded so that people will use it more. The people that are on the fence between taking a vehicle and taking the bus. For me, I'm always going to be a transit user regardless of how good or bad the system is. I took an oath to myself that that's how it's going to be when I was much younger, that I will always use public transit. And when I eventually find a girlfriend, I know I'm looking for one that also uses public transit, and we're going to raise our kids on using public transit. So, but there's folks out there that are sort of maybe on the fence, that are undecisive, or sort of hesitating to use transit. And by getting a better transit system and increasing funding, that'll help, get more people onto transit. So hopefully we'll get some more transit funding soon. Hopefully we'll get metro stations fixed up, more frequent service, you name it. I mentioned this a couple of times. Actually, when I was in Ottawa, they have so many transit advocacy groups. When I was on the O train, I noticed there was a couple of people using like a clipboard, and they had like a paper on the clipboard asking questions to commuters and passengers, like what's important to you. I don't see that in Montreal. I don't see really any. I know there's a couple of small groups out there that are transit advocates, but I don't see any large presence of them. And I think that's something that would be maybe beneficial, just to get some Montreal area transit advocacy groups made, depending on where you are, whether you're in Laval or Montreal, the South Shore, you're in the so-called out of territory Zone D, Salaberry to Valleyfield, places like this. If you're in the Laurentians, whatever, and you want to advocate for better transit in your area and in general, maybe we should make groups for these sort of things. So that's just an idea that I had, but of course Whether people are going to do that or not, I don't know. But we definitely need a stronger voice for transit in government and whatnot, because I find, the governments right now, whether it's the municipal, provincial, federal, they're just not seeing the importance of public transit as much as it should be. And especially with Montreal, the new administration doesn't seem to be as pro public transit as the last one. But mind you, I have seen, recently some more sort of pro transit type behavior. I think the mayor was saying that they want a funding agreement between Quebec and Ottawa for public transit. But don't get me wrong. I mean, we are pretty blessed in Montreal to be in a very progressive pro transit, pro bicycle city. Even Quebec as a whole, pretty, the government, okay, not really the government, but I mean, Quebec as a whole, sort of very pro transit. The government of Canada right now, without going into politics, I mean, there's more right wing parties than the one in power now that don't care as much about transit. But the current administration here in Canada, the current government of Canada, they're sort of, I guess, with the new leader, the new prime minister, I've noticed that they're not really as pro-transit, pro-public transit as, when the Trudeau era was here. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, it could be worse. We could have governments all over and every level that just doesn't care about public transit and only cares about cars and dirty vehicles and whatnot. So, but you can never have too much interest in public transit. You can never have too much funding for public transit. So, point being, I really hope that all levels of government and beyond will increase funding for transit and get some good projects off the ground. No pun intended. What else is there to talk about right now? So we also have, of course, the Blue Line Metro extension, the tunnel burrowing machine, rather. Apparently they named it Alice, and that is now officially digging a very large tunnel east from, I don't know where the machine is actually, or what direction is the machine going in. Is it actually going to be from Anjou and then it's going to go right to Saint Michel and break through the Saint Michel station at the tail tracks? I don't know, I'm going to have to look that up. But in any event, we do have that tunnel making machine here. It came, I think, last year. Shout out to Sparks. He's been keeping a lot of us up to date on that. But we have that now that's officially started digging. I'm going to try to get some drone footage of that. That would be really cool for my channel and for you guys to see. Of course, when I say for my channel, I mean for you guys, the viewers, so that, you can see that machine in action. It'd be nice to get some views from above. I'm going to have to research. I don't know what station it's at or where it is and what direction is it digging in. Because I don't know if it's going to be used for making the whole tunnel between Saint Michel and Anjou. Of course, the current eastern terminus of the Blue Line is Saint Michel, and it's going to be extended to Anjou, specifically the Galerie d'Anjou, or the Anjou Gallery Shopping Center. That's still supposed to be all opening up in the 2031 range. We'll see. Also, going back to the REM, apparently the airport branch is coming along good. That should be opening up next year, 2027. We'll see again if the REM has the festivities, has the special invites, the open houses, and hopefully everything goes on track and on time, on budget. So we got. I'm going to try to do another 10 to 15 minutes here, seeing that we're at 25 minutes in. Maybe 5 to 10 maybe 5 to 15 minutes. We'll see. At least I'll get to that half-hour mark that I wanted to do. Another thing I wanted to mention, if you are into science and anatomy like I am, you're a casual anatomy or science fan, I highly recommend checking out the MODE Anatomy Museum at McGill University. It's in the Strathcona building, and it's free to enter. And it's located, like I said, in the Strathcona building. You go in the Strathcona building, and as soon as you go down the hallway, it's on University Street, by the way. Of course, the southern part of University Street is now Robert Bourassa, but you go to University Street, and you'll see there's a building there. You go in the Strathcona building. It's a really old building, the Strathcona one, and you're going to go in from University Street, and I believe it's on the second floor, and you go right down the hallway, and it's on the right, and it's the Anatomy Museum. Dr. Mode, which is a doctor or professor of medicine at McGill from a while ago, early in the 1900s, I believe, or a little later. But it's definitely something worth checking out, and it's free. And if you're into anatomy, they have like all kinds of specimens of hearts and preserved brains and that sort of thing. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you're okay with that stuff like I am, and you enjoy that stuff, go check it out. The McGill University Anatomy Museum. So that's something as well I wanted to mention. Also, I have a couple of days left of my museum pass, where, of course, I filmed but where did I film last year? I filmed the Biodome and the Insectarium. I want to try to do the Botanical Gardens one night this week coming. Do a walking video through there with the gimbal, of course. And, that would be really nice to take a video of. Walk through the Botanical Gardens. And, when I finish work, it's usually around 4:35, so it's still light out, so I'll still be able to get some light in the footage walking through the Botanical Gardens. That's something I'm really looking forward to. I haven't been there in years. So, and by the way, that's where my profile picture was taken, at the Botanical Gardens, the Japanese gardens. That's a lamp from the Japanese gardens. So I may even do a reshoot of that famous photo and upload it as my new profile picture. We'll see. That would be cool, wouldn't it? Anyways, finally, I'm going to wrap it up here because the rain is starting to pick up a bit here. But we're going to make it to 30 minutes. Also wanted to say I'm happy that we finally have actual proper weather now. We have warm temperatures. It was a bit cool for a while, below seasonal. And we have the leaves now that have pretty much fully blossomed. They blossom so fast. It's incredible, the first couple of weeks of May. And good to have summer right around the corner. And like I said, warm temperatures. And soon we'll be having probably heat waves, thunderstorms, you name it. I have a feeling we're going to have some good thunderstorms this summer, so we'll see. But if you're like me and you don't like the heat, or if you get too hot, for example, there's a sprinkler park here behind me where I am. Not open yet, but come cool off in the sprinkler park. No, it doesn't matter what age you are. Go cool off. I love these sprinkler water parks that they have. It's always nice to have them. I wish they were open past 11 p.m. though, or were functioning past 11 p.m. because, some people like me, they might be a night owl here and there, and it'd be nice to cool off after hours. But anyways, it is what it is. As always, thanks to Jack Casey, aka a Bass Guy, for inviting me onto his show, a Bass Guy Show, which is every Friday, usually around 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Frankie McDonald always calls in usually. Sometimes Stefan in Slovakia. And I called in the last show. It was fun. Of course, he has great music. And all the drone videos, most of the drone videos, the music you hear is produced by Jack Casey, aka A Bass Guy. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. So, hopefully you enjoyed this little podcast episode. I wanted to do at least 30 minutes this time. Like I said, we'll see how the views go on these. I mean, I know some of you like it, so maybe I'll try to do one once a month at least. Talk about the issues of the day. But anyways, thanks for watching, and see you all soon.